Mr. Garg, just continuing with the different registrations that we spoke about, I wanted to talk about another registration, which is FSSAI. And is it mandatory? And also, how does this registration enhance the consumer trust and credibility for food business that are operating? Let's say if somebody wants to set up a food business in India, why is this registration so important?
So, Parul, the full form of FSSAI is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. It's a regulatory
Right.
body. It was established for Food Safety and Standards Act under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. The three primary reasons why this organization came into picture was ensuring food safety, regulating and supervising food businesses in India, protecting consumer health by setting standards for food products. After 2006, this FSSAI certification, they and this body kind of established that into place. So all food-related businesses in India, from manufacturers to retailers, are required to comply with FSSAI regulations. If we were to talk about the applicability, so it will be applicable to any kind of food manufacturer, processor, food processor, in terms of who is processing the food, transporter, distributor, retailer, or even an importer or exporter. Anything is manufactured outside India, chocolates, coffee, whatever, you're importing it into India. So then FSSAI registration is mandatory for all food related businesses. There are three types of registrations which are there. There's basic, state, and central. So if we were to talk about the basic registration, for businesses with an annual turnover of up to 12 lakh rupees, they will fall under the basic registration. If your business crosses 12 lakh limits turnover and up to 20 crore rupees, then the state license would be required. And beyond 20 crores of business, or if the business is engaged in specific food categories, then they would require a central license. So either depending on which stage of your business you are in, then you would have to have these one of these three licenses in place. It is important. It is really very important that's why this act was brought in 2006. It's not a given that it should be done, but now it's been mandated by law. That's why this act was brought in and this regulatory body was brought in.
Just moving to the next segment, which is, I think, one of the main, I would say, the basic criteria, and I would say a very, very important registration is GST, which is Goods and Services Tax. What are the basic criteria for GST registration? If, let's say, somebody has a business, do they also need to?
Yes. So, Parul, GST was brought in about 8 years back, and the primary reason was that there were too many plethora of indirect taxes which were there, state taxes, central taxes. To kind of subsume all of those taxes, GST was brought into picture. GST has been kind of a boon in that sense, collapse all the multiple tax structures which were in place. So GST is a must for business whose turnover crosses certain limits. So for most states, it's rupees 40 lakhs Indian INR and rupees 10 lakhs for some special category states. If you're operating across state lines, across state borders, or running e-commerce platform, then it's mandatory. If you're operating within the state, then if your business turnover crosses that threshold, then only it will be compulsory. Otherwise, it's not. Then you can also opt for composition scheme. So if you've got a turnover of more than 1.5 crore rupees or 75 lakhs in some special states, then you might be eligible for composition scheme where GST registration here becomes optional for you. The third one is that there's certain businesses like e-commerce operators or non-resident taxable persons who need GST registration regardless of turnover. If you're in any one of these categories, so then you will mandatorily be needing to have the GST registration in place. So your question was also around why register. This is there are many reasons for it. I'll list down few of them, the few critical ones. First is to stay compliant, to avoid penalties and stay on the right side of the law. You need to have the GST registration. Second, you will be able to claim the input tax credit. That will reduce your tax liabilities by claiming credits on the purchases you made. So when you're making purchases, you would be paying some GST on that. So when you're selling,
Yeah.
you would be charging that GST, so you can mitigate that by offsetting it against the purchases made, the purchase input tax credit. So that way you can claim that input tax. The next benefit of having the GST registration is your business get an expansion of sorts. If you want to move interstate or you want to serve your customers beyond the state boundaries, so then you would be mandatorily required to have a GST registration. So in that sense, interstate transactions, tenders, or applying for certain licenses, it becomes very, very easy for you by having the GST. The last is it boosts your credibility. It enhances your consumer trust that with the official GST registration in place, the consumer can trust that you're not charging them over necessary over the taxes. You're not burdening them by charging multiple taxes. You would have taken input tax credit and would have passed them on the same benefit to them. Okay. So then we come down to the registration process. How do we register for it? So it's an online applications. So you need to go to the GST portal, fill in your business detail, upload the documents. Uh, then a verification would be carried out. Your application would be scrutinized. And then you will get your GSTN number. There would be certain clarifications which the department may come back for, like whatever address proof you have given, if it's not matching, if they require more further details, they would come back to you. And they may need to carry out a physical verification also, which has been started recently, because a lot of fake GSTN numbers were being applied on the same address. So to avoid that, there has been physical verifications which have been coming up. So the last point, which I would rather say and state is that after registration, the compliance is very necessary. So there are monthly compliances, there are quarterly, there are annual compliances. You'll have to maintain your records. You'll need to file your returns properly. You will have to prepare the computations properly. If you miss them, there will be penalties involved. So to stay at the right side of the law, you will need to be very, very compliant and accurate with your record and file your returns properly.
Right. I think for the businesses, GST has been one of the biggest reforms, if I can say, in last 5 years. I think the amount of GST that has been collected, and it has also to do a lot with the digitalization of the businesses, because now everything is digitized, everything is linked to each other. I feel personally like that has been one of the biggest
Yes.
transformation in businesses back in India.
Yes, in the last 10 years, one of the revolutions is by collapsing all the indirect tax structures, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
GST has kind of achieved that very brilliantly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garg. I hope you have a good start to the new year's, and thank you so much again for taking our time and providing such valuable information for our audience.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, Parul, for having me on your channel. It's an absolute delight to be here and talk to your viewers and talk to your viewers on such important topics, which can make a lot of difference to their financial journey. Thank you.
FMR Finance Weekly. Simplify your life with our financial advice.